The stench of burnt sugar and raw sewage filled Izuku Midoriya's lungs, a grotesque potpourri of his impending doom. The sludge villain was a suffocating, gelatinous prison, its fluid form forcing its way down his throat, into his nostrils. His limbs thrashed uselessly, his vision tunneling into a desperate pinprick of light. He was dying. He was dying, and the heroes, the professionals, were just watching. Then, a flicker of movement. Not a hero, but a blur of blonde hair and explosive rage. Katsuki Bakugo, his childhood friend and lifelong tormentor, was caught, and in that moment, something primal and inexplicable took over Izuku's body. His legs moved on their own. He ran. A quirkless, useless Deku, running toward a villain that had pro-heroes stumped. He clawed at the slime, his yellow backpack slipping from his shoulders. He threw it, a desperate, pathetic gesture. A book, Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume 13, flew out, its pages fluttering like a dying bird before being swallowed by the muck. For a split second, his desperate action distracted the villain, allowing Bakugo to gasp for air. It was a fleeting, insignificant victory, and then, of course, All Might arrived. I am here. The words were a physical force, scattering the clouds and the crowd's fear. A Texas smash obliterated the villain, changing the weather and saving the day in a spectacular display of absolute power. Izuku, however, didn't feel saved. He felt hollowed out. He was berated by the pro-heroes for his recklessness, while Bakugo was praised for his powerful quirk and fighting spirit. The final, crushing blow came later, on a lonely rooftop. All Might, in his skeletal, blood-spitting true form, told him the words he had always feared. No, I don't think you can be a hero without a quirk. The dream, nurtured for a decade and a half, died a swift and brutal death. Izuku walked home in a daze, the world a gray, muted film. He didn't notice the small, black drone, no bigger than a hummingbird, that detached itself from a nearby lamppost and silently followed him home. In a darkened, monitor-filled office atop the highest point on the UA campus, a small, white-furred creature sipped delicately from a porcelain teacup. His black, beady eyes, gleaming with an intelligence that bordered on terrifying, were fixed on a dozen different screens. Principal Nizu, the highly intelligent animal with the quirk, High Spec, had been monitoring the sludge villain incident with a professional, almost cold, curiosity. He watched the pro-heroes establish a perimeter, failing to account for the villain's fluid dynamics. He watched them posture and wait for someone with a more suitable quirk. He sighed, a small puff of air. The systemic over-reliance on brute force and advantageous matchups was a rot in the foundation of hero society. Then, his ears twitched. He focused on one screen, rewinding the footage. A small, green-haired boy, clearly quirkless from his civilian attire and panicked demeanor, was charging in. Nizu leaned forward, his claws tapping a thoughtful rhythm on his desk. It was foolish. Suicidal. And yet, he magnified the image, enhancing the audio. He could just make out the boy's frantic muttering. Eyes, he has solid eyes, weak point, pressure, suffocation. If I can just get him to release. Nizu's lips pulled back into a wide, unnerving grin. It wasn't the boy's reckless bravery that captured his attention. It was the analysis. In the face of certain death, with pro-heroes paralyzed by inaction, this child was actively dissecting his opponent, searching for a weakness. He hadn't run in blindly. He had run in with a desperate, half-formed strategy. He watched the rest of the incident play out, All Might's arrival, the boy's subsequent humiliation. He even had audio from the rooftop conversation, courtesy of one of his more discreet surveillance drones. So, Toshinori crushed his spirit, Nizu mused to the empty room. Predictable. All Might sees heroes as vessels of power, symbols carved from marble. He doesn't see the chisel. He pulled up a file on the boy, Izuku Midoriya. Quirkless. Top grades despite documented bullying at Aldera Junior High, and a series of notebooks, confiscated by teachers and noted in his file, filled with shockingly detailed analyses of pro-hero quirks. Nizu's grin widened. This wasn't just a chisel. This was a diamond in the rough. A mind forged in the fires of adversity, sharpened by a world that told him he was worthless. A mind that could, with the proper guidance, become a weapon more potent than any quirk. Well, Yagi Toshinori, the principal chirped, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of a grand, new experiment. You may have discarded him, but I do so love collecting interesting things. He pressed a button on his console. Give me the Midoriya household's address. And prepare my finest Gyokuro tea. 2 days later, an official-looking envelope arrived, bearing the prestigious crest of Yue High School. Inko Midoriya fainted twice before Izuku could carefully open it. It was a formal invitation, on thick, creamy cardstock, requesting the presence of Izuku Midoriya for a private consultation with Principal Nizu himself. The Midoriya apartment was a flurry of panic and confusion. Why would the principal of UA want to see you, Izuku? Did you do something wrong? Was it the sludge villain? Are you in trouble? Izuku, still nursing the raw wound of his broken dream, was just as bewildered. I don't know, Mom. The next day, he found himself sitting in an office that felt larger than his entire apartment. The view of the city was breathtaking, a god's-eye perspective he had only ever dreamed of. Across a polished mahogany desk sat the source of the summons, Principal Nizu, who looked like a creature from a children's storybook but radiated an aura of intellect so profound it was physically palpable. Mr. Midoriya, thank you for coming, Nizu said, his voice cheerful and light. He gestured to a cup of steaming green tea placed before Izuku. Please drink. It helps calm the nerves. Izuku took a shaky sip. It was the best tea he had ever tasted. I will be direct, Nizu continued, folding his small paws together. I have reviewed the footage of your interaction with the sludge villain. All of it, including your rather disheartening conversation with All Might. Izuku flinched, his blood running cold. He knew. How could he possibly know? The pro-heroes on the scene called you reckless. All Might called you powerless, Nizu stated, his beady eyes unblinking. They are all wrong. Izuku stared, speechless. Your charge was, on the surface, an act of foolish desperation. But I saw something more. Nizu leaned forward, his voice dropping slightly, gaining an edge of intensity. I saw analysis under extreme duress. I heard you identifying a weak point. Your body moved because your mind, in a fraction of a second, formulated a plan, however crude, and deemed the risk acceptable for the potential outcome, creating an opening for the victim to breathe. Is that not correct? Izuku could only nod, his throat tight with unshed tears. Someone had seen. Someone had understood. All Might believes heroism is a function of power. That a hero must be a mighty shield. I, however, subscribe to a different philosophy. Nisa's grin returned, sharp and predatory. I believe true heroism is a function of intellect. A hero should be a scalpel, precise and decisive, ending a threat with minimal collateral damage. A shield is useless if you don't know where the blow will land. A scalpel, in the right hands, can remove a tumor before it ever becomes a threat. He paused, letting the word sink in. Izuku Midoriya, you have the potential to be the sharpest scalpel this world has ever seen. Your entire life, you have been forced to observe, to analyze, to think your way around problems that others simply punch. Your quirklessness is not a deficiency. It is a crucible that has forged your mind into something truly special. Tears were now streaming freely down Izuku's face, hot drops of validated hope splashing onto his trousers. All Might told you that you cannot be a hero without a quirk, Nisa said, his voice soft but firm. He was mistaken. He should have said, you cannot be a hero like me. And he would be right. I am not offering you a quirk, Mr. Midoriya. I am offering you something far more valuable. I am offering you a path. My personal mentorship. I will train you. I will provide you with the resources of this entire institution. I will hone your mind and your body into a new kind of hero. One who wins not with overwhelming power, but with overwhelming intelligence. He stood on his chair, a tiny figure with a colossal presence. The world is obsessed with quirks. It has made them complacent, predictable. I want to show them what a truly brilliant, quirkless mind can achieve. I want you to be my grand thesis. So, I will ask you again, Izuku Midoriya, the question you asked All Might. Can you be a hero? Nisa's eyes gleamed. My answer is yes. The real question is, are you willing to endure the hell I will put you through to prove it? Through his tears, Izuku looked up at the strange, brilliant creature before him. It wasn't the answer he had expected, but it was the one his soul had been screaming for. It wasn't a gift of power, but a validation of his own inherent worth. Yes, Izuku choked out, his voice raw but resolute. Yes, I am. The next 10 months were, as promised, hell. But it was a glorious, transformative hell. Izuku's Clean the Beach was not a test of physical strength, but a brutalist-style intellectual and physical gauntlet designed by Nisa himself. His physical training was not about building bulk. It was about turning his body into a finely tuned instrument of evasion, agility, and endurance. He spent hours with the acrobatics specialist, learning parkour and freerunning, turning the urban landscape into his personal playground. He was taught a dozen martial arts, focusing not on strikes, but on joint locks, throws, and redirects, arts like Aikido and Judo, designed to use an opponent's strength against them. He spent nights navigating UA's most complex training grounds, learning stealth and infiltration, his only goal to reach a designated point without being detected by a network of state-of-the-art sensors. His mental training was even more rigorous. He played thousands of games of chess, Go, and shogi against Nisa. He never won, but with each loss, he learned to think further ahead, to anticipate gambits within gambits. His hero analysis notebooks were no longer a hobby. They were his primary homework. Nisa would give him scenarios. Endeavor versus a villain with a water absorption quirk in a packed shopping mall. Minimize civilian casualties and property damage. Go. Izuku would spend days writing up detailed strategic plans, which Nisa would then dissect with ruthless precision. He was given access to the support department, where a gruff but brilliant teacher named Power Loader, on Nisa's direct orders, began working with him. They designed a lightweight, reinforced suit that could dampen impacts and regulate his temperature. They built him a utility belt filled not with weapons, but with tools, high-tensile wire, smoke pellets, flashbangs, a multi-tool, and a custom-built data pad linked directly to UA servers. His greatest weapon was a set of high-tech goggles with multiple vision modes and a direct link to his analysis software. He saw All Might occasionally in the halls. Now a teacher at UA, the skeletal man would watch him train sometimes, a look of profound concern and confusion on his face. Once, he confronted Nisa in his office. Nisa, what are you doing to that boy? Tashinori asked, his voice low. He needs a quirk to survive in this world. You're sending a lamb to the slaughter, armed with nothing but books and gadgets. Nisa merely smiled, pouring his tea. You see a lamb, Tashinori. I see a wolf in sheep's clothing. You wanted to give him a sword so he could fight in the open. I am teaching him how to be the whisper in the dark that disarms the swordsman before the fight even begins. Your era is ending. A new one that requires more than just brute force, is dawning. Young Midoriya will be its vanguard. Tashinori left, unconvinced and deeply troubled, leaving Nisa to his grand, dangerous game. The day of the UA entrance exam arrived. Izuku stood before the massive gates, not a bundle of nerves like in his old dreams, but a coil of calm, focused energy. He was not here to compete with people like Bakugo. He was here to execute a plan. When the exam began, chaos erupted. Examinees surged forward, blasting robots with fire, ice, and explosions. Bakugo was a whirlwind of destruction, screaming die. As he racked up points, Izuku, however, melted into the cityscape. He didn't destroy a single robot. Instead, he moved like a ghost. He used his grappling wire to scale buildings, his goggles identifying the robot's patrol patterns. He saw a group of examinees get cornered by 3 one-pointers. Instead of engaging, he threw a small EMP device, a prototype from the support course, that temporarily disabled them, allowing the others to escape. He didn't get points, but he completed his own objective. Save, assist, enable. He was a battlefield controller, a shepherd in a field of wolves. He guided panicked examinees away from danger, used smoke pellets to cover retreats, and tagged structural weaknesses on larger robots for others to exploit. His point counter remained at a perfect, glaring 0. Then the ground trembled. The 0-pointer, a behemoth of a machine, rose from between the buildings, its shadow casting a pall of terror over the entire exam site. Everyone ran. It was the logical thing to do, but Izuku heard a cry. Near the robot's path, a girl with brown hair was trapped under a slab of concrete, her leg clearly injured. Ochako Uraraka, this was it. The ultimate test. The old Izuku would have panicked. The new Izuku saw a problem to be solved. His mind raced, processing data at a speed Nizu would have been proud of. Objective, rescue the girl. Obstacle, 0-pointer, massive, heavily armored. Direct confrontation is suicide. Environmental factors, damaged street, exposed power lines, debris. Timeframe, approximately 25 seconds until the robot reaches her position. He didn't run towards the robot to punch it. He ran parallel to it. With his goggles, he spotted a damaged 2-pointer robot crumpled near a severed high-voltage power cable. An idea, cold and precise, clicked into place. He used his wire to snag the broken robot and, with a grunt of effort, swung it like a pendulum, flinging it directly into the exposed, sparking cable. The resulting explosion and power surge was massive, a blinding flash of arcing electricity. The 0-pointer, caught in the blast, seized up for a moment, its internal systems shorting out. It was only a 4-second window, but it was all he needed. He fired his grapple at a sturdy building near Uraraka, swinging in a clean arc over the debris. He landed softly beside her, his movements practiced and efficient. It's okay. I'm going to get you out. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled strength, he managed to leverage the concrete slab just enough for her to pull her leg free. He scooped her up in a fireman's carry, another technique drilled into him, and grappled away to safety just as the 0-pointer rebooted and took another lumbering step, crushing the spot where they had just been. The buzzer sounded, signaling the end of the exam. Izuku gently set Uraraka down, his body trembling with exhaustion. He looked at the scoreboard. Villain points 0. He had failed. A cold dread began to seep in, but he pushed it away. He had saved someone. That had to count for something. In the observation room, the teachers were silent. Well, the kid's got guts, but 0 points is 0 points, President Mike said, breaking the tension. His recklessness put him in unnecessary danger, Midnight added with a frown. Nizu, however, was beaming, his sharp teeth glinting. On the contrary, he chirped, replaying the footage of the 0-pointer incident on the main screen, slowing it down and highlighting Izuku's every move.